Are you one of those divorced parents that just cannot stand the nighttime FaceTime by the other parent? So it's nighttime, it's like 7:30, you've done bath, you've done the book, and now it's time to call dad. And you're trying to put on this happy, smiley face when deep down you are cringing the next 15 minutes because it's going to be a cat and mouse game with you chasing your kids around with the phone, making sure that dad can see them and dad can ask the question of how was your day, and the kids don't answer, and you're like mouthing to them to answer, and they're just refusing. And then by the end of it, you're pissed off, you're stressed out, you're barking at your own kids who are there for visitation with you, but you're having to force them to sit still to talk to dad for 5 minutes, 10 minutes with some ridiculous questions of how was your day, and they don't want to answer. And then it wraps up with dad accusing you of not wanting the kids to talk to you. And it's stressful, and you hate it, and you know there's a better way, but you don't know what it is. In today's episode, I'm going to tell you what the better way is. So stick around. Hi guys, and welcome back. My name is Samantha Boss, and I am here with the ugly truth of divorce. And today we are going to cover the subject that everyone dreads, the FaceTime calls with dad at nighttime. Now, I'm going to give you some tips, but I just want to start from the very beginning and just tell you at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you my true feelings about these phone calls. Like my true, honest 14 years of experience being a co-parent, I'm going to tell you at the end my true thoughts on FaceTime phone calls with dad. Okay, so step number one, you have these phone calls, whether it be court-ordered or you guys decided when you split up that, hey, we want to make sure dad gets to see the kids at nighttime and talk to them. Okay, I get it. I totally get the logic. I totally get the reasoning. But there needs to be some rules around it. And number one, these things need to be scheduled. Like, it causes me anxiety for things that are not, planned. It has to be planned. I don't like things that are unplanned. It throws me off. I feel like it's too much. I have too many kids, too many things going on for things to be unplanned. So these phone calls need to be planned. And I'm not saying it has to be 7 o'clock every night, 8 o'clock every night. No, what it can be is give me a 10-minute heads up that you're going to be free. Let me text you when the kids are available. And it's a 10-minute window, 10 minutes to get ready, which is what I'm going to cover in the next couple steps and tips to help you make these phone calls smoother. But give me a scheduled about time. Now, a 10-minute window is plenty of time to follow the next step of rules. Number two is this. I don't like these phone calls being at bedtime. Having a phone call at bedtime is so triggering for the visitation parent, the parent that has the kid. Because now I have to think about it while I'm doing bath, I'm thinking about it while I'm reading the book, I'm thinking about it while I'm brushing their teeth, and I'm not enjoying my kids because my anxiety is getting so high because this phone call is coming up. And I know that I'm going to have to pin the kids down. I'm going to have to force them to sit still and talk. And then sometimes the other half of that frustration can quite simply be that now I know my kids are triggered because either they missed that parent or maybe that parent got them all rattled up. Maybe that parent was talking to them in a way that now they're uncomfortable and they can't sleep. Or he gets them super excited and now I'm the one trying to get them down for bedtime. So I don't like bedtime phone calls. I don't. Years of experience, I just don't like it. It doesn't work well. So I prefer morning phone calls. I really do. As you're getting ready for work, put that phone down. Let them talk to them during morning time. I like right after school. That doesn't always work well with people's work schedules, but you could do before you start bed, bath, and book, right? Before you start that whole routine, have that phone call then. That way you know when it's over right after dinner time, I'm having a phone call with dad, and now I'm getting ready for bed. I'm getting the kids laid down, and it's on my terms, and I can relax, and I can enjoy those snuggles, and I can put them down the way I want to put them down, and not have this, okay, now that we're all ready for bed, let's FaceTime dad. I just don't like it. I just don't. So find a time that works better for both parties. And I know some of you are going to get resistance from your other co-parent and say, well, that doesn't work for me. Well, okay, well then maybe that phone call isn't so important to you after all if you can't step away from what you're doing at 7:15 to say goodnight. And if it's at work, then you know what? We might have to have a morning slot. So make the time work for both parents, not just one. Now the next tip Number 3 is to get a dad box together. This could also work, mom box, who's ever calling who, but I really think a dad box is critical when you have younger kids. And once you get into that teenager phase, you're not holding the phone, you're not tracking them down, they're calling and texting on their own. But when you have young children, you need to have a dad box. And inside this dad box is toys or hobbies or interests that they can do anytime dad's on the phone. It's things that they don't have access to all the time. Things like the special Play-Doh, the expensive Play-Doh, or maybe it's watercolor books, or it's paints, or it's the small Legos that they never get to play with. It's some type of collection that they have that they only get this box out when dad FaceTimes, or special circumstances or events, or as a reward, they get out the box, right? It's a plastic container that mom has put together a whole bunch of awesome things that they get excited about to do while dad's on the phone. And going on right into step number 4, get a tripod. They're on Amazon, they're less than $20. Get a tripod. Now we're not chasing. Now we're not holding the phone. Now we are not there because we have set up this tripod to where I am putting it where I can control how much dad can see of my living space. And now I have this tripod set up to where it's just facing the kitchen table. It's facing the living room floor, wherever all of my kids are. And my kids have a do not touch. You don't touch this tripod. It is for dad to be able to see all of you at the same time. You may walk up to it, show him something, and sit back down, but the tripod doesn't move, okay? This tripod's gonna save you. It's gonna save you, it's gonna save you, because now you are able to leave the room, which is step number 5. You gotta be able to leave the room for a couple reasons. If you have an ex that is constantly wanting to talk to you, constantly wanting to engage with you, constantly pulling you into a conversation that you don't want to be a part of, this tripod helps in the sense that now you get to leave, which is what I recommend. Say, hey, the kids are all set up, they're ready to play Legos, I'm going to step away and fold a load of laundry, I'm going to be right in the other room doing dishes, I'll come back in about 10 minutes to see how we're doing, but you go ahead and have a nice long conversation with the kids. With that being said, this gives the kids that relief of, Mom's not standing here listening to us. Mom's not standing here watching us. And I know how dad can get sometimes, and he tries to pull mom into the conversation. Now dad has no choice but to just engage with us. How great for your kids, right? And quite frankly, it might make your ex-husband feel more comfortable that now you're not bird dogging and listening to the conversation. He might actually get to relax and become his true self over the phone and get to laugh and play with them. The third option, though, is this. He might be pissed off that you're not involved in this conversation anymore because now he can't attack you or ask you questions, which, again, these phone calls are supposed to be about the kids. So making sure that you have set that boundary of, hey, you're on a tripod, I'm stepping away, kids are all yours. Now, the next step, step 6, the last step, is this. Give dad, and this is you being a unicorn, okay? This is you being like an extra special person. This is you texting him in that 10-minute window, maybe ideas that you've thought of throughout the past couple days when they haven't talked, of specific things that dad can ask about. Specific questions, comments, things that have happened to them through the past couple days. Maybe they ate a new food. Maybe they had a friend situation that needs to be talked about. Maybe they got a really good grade or a really bad grade. Give him specifics, because that general question of, how you doing, bud? How was school? You know how kids are going to answer those, and then that parent's going to get frustrated. So give him specifics of things to ask about, talk about. He's not there. He doesn't know. Maybe the kid, got a new pair of shoes. Hey, go get your shoes. Let me see what they look like. Give dad specifics to ask about and talk about. Now, like I promised, I told you that I was going to tell you my true feelings on these phone calls. And I'm just going to tell you, after 14 years of being divorced myself, I will say these phone calls are for parents. They're not for kids. Now, my only little asterisk special circumstance is this: long distance. If there is long distance and or a long time period of not seeing your kids for possibly a week at a time, then by all means have these FaceTimes, but follow the rules I've given you. Follow the tips I've given you. Don't wing it. Don't be a last minute person that calls right before bedtime and you don't do anything special. Make the phone calls special if you have long distance or you don't see your kids for a long time. But quite honestly, my true opinion, professionally and personally, these phone calls are ridiculous. These phone calls are for the parent and parent only. And I'm sorry, you chose divorce yourselves, so toughen up. You're not going to see your kids every day. You're not going to talk with them every day. And quite frankly, I think it's pretty fucking selfish that you're going to call and interrupt my parenting time, especially those of you that demand it right before bed. You want to ruin my snuggle time by having a conversation? No, it's my time with my kids. And also, a lot of times in hostile divorces, this phone call period of time is just a way to control me as I have the kids in making sure that I'm putting them to bed on time and that I'm at home and I'm not doing anything and I don't have anybody else watching my kids. And you're trying to bird dog me on my parenting the whole time, or just bird dogging me and stalking me through these phone calls and trying to figure out what I'm doing and who's there. So quite honestly, these phone calls can work if both people go into it knowing it's for the kids. But quite honestly, time and time again, these phone calls are sometimes done out of obligation. These phone calls are done because they think that the court will make them do them. So they go ahead and say, yeah, I'll do the phone calls. Yeah, even though they don't want to. And then it's this whole letdown period where eventually when the newness of the divorce wears off, now you have this parent that's like, oh gosh, I'm in the middle of something and I really don't want to stop to make that phone call. So they miss a phone call and they miss another phone call. Then they cancel a few calls. And then before you know it, the kids are like, okay, are we not doing these phone calls anymore? And then it's another letdown. The divorce was a letdown to the child possibly, and now the phone calls are a letdown. So quite honestly, I'm against them. I don't like them unless you follow the rules that I showed you. And it's not every night. Let me parent my kid during my parenting time, and you parent the kid during your parenting time. I just don't think these phone calls during someone else's parenting time are really that beneficial. Because quite honestly, most kids, not all, have this whole feeling of out of sight, out of mind. If you don't remind me that I'm not with mom, I don't remember that I'm not with mom. And I can go to bed perfectly fine. But if you trigger me and say, well, do you want to call your mom before bed? Well, now I want my mom, and now I want to sleep with my mom, and I want to go to my mom's house, and I want my mom to pick me up. Now I've just traumatized my child when they were never going to mention that to begin with. So really stop and ask yourself, is this phone call worth it for the child? Is this what the child needs? Or is this you just being kind of selfish and saying, well, I miss my baby and I want to talk to my baby? I'm sure you do. We all miss our kids when we're not around them. But is it beneficial? Sometimes as parents, we have to suck it up and not do the things we want to because it's going to cause more harm than good. And sometimes these phone calls, depending on the relationship between you and your co-parent, are not worth it. Are not worth it. So if you have enjoyed this episode, I recommend that you check out my website, SamanthaBoss.com, and check out anything you need. I have co-parenting stuff. I have divorce stuff. I'm a mediator, so I have all kinds of tips and tricks and strategies on how to make sure that your divorce and your co-parenting go a lot smoother. So until next time, message me if you need me.